wild road, an Indian girl, bright out.
Silkwood Inn Museum. Priscilla, the book that you read, she came here to live when she was about 13 years old. Mr. Silkwood, the owner, which is right here, Mr. Silkwood, when he came here, he actually also did a lot of traveling, and he was actually against slavery. He purchased several slaves and individuals that were confined, and he gave them money when he freed them, and they were allowed to go their own way, or some of them actually came here and lived at the inn with Mr. Silkwood and helped him, since he helped them, so they helped Mr. Silkwood. So when Priscilla came here, she was about 13 years old. The first time Mr. Silkwood met her would have been about the time when you read about her in the book, when she was just a little girl. So she was probably 5 or 6 years old, because unfortunately when Mr. Silkwood met Priscilla, her mom had just been sold, because she was just turned enough age to where she could start doing chores within the house, which meant sweeping, dusting, doing the dishes and stuff like that. So that happened a lot, unfortunately, back in the days when slaves were co-housed with owners and things like that. So with Priscilla, and this is something for you to know, Priscilla, when she came here to live with Mr. Silkwood, there's another little girl here. She was probably 2 or 3 years old. Her dad and her brothers came through on the trail, the Shiny Kaskaskia Trail, and they left her here, and her name was Laura Anyer. Her mom died on the boat on the way over from the Europe area, London, England. She passed away on the trip over right after she had Laura. So when Laura got here, she had been reared by her dad and her brothers, so she was actually left here at the inn with Mr. Silkwood and his family. And so that was about the same time Priscilla came. So Priscilla knew what it was like to not have a mom, so she kind of took Priscilla under her wing, and she kind of took care of Priscilla, Laura, while she was here. So but Priscilla lived here from the time Mr. Silkwood brought her here until Mr. Silkwood passed away in 1876. And then Priscilla went to live with Laura at her house. And here's something neat. Where Priscilla lived, that's where the property is where I live.
Oh, really?
Stop it.
I'm serious. And Mr. Silkwood is my 4th generation great uncle.
Whoa.
So
does that make sense? So her great uncle, so that'd be like your Uncle Ben, okay? But then it's your child and their child. So your when you're a grandpa, your grandchild's would be Ben's.
It's a little complicated.
Does that make sense? But I mean, she's related to Mr. Silkwood.
Mr. Silkwood's brother Levi was my great grandfather.
That's crazy. That's neat, huh? So on your property, is any part of that house, the original house, still there?
Unfortunately, it's not. When my parents bought it is when after my great grandparents were both put in homes, and then after they passed away, my dad had to go through the whole probate system and stuff, and he purchased the property. Unfortunately, the house had no foundation; it was just sitting on the ground. And it was going to cost more to fix the house than. So Mom and Dad just built a house. So, but the property is still in the family, and we still have a few hollyhocks on the property.
Oh, really?
That's cool.
Unfortunately, we had like huge patches, and this is kind of when the hollyhocks grow. They kind of grow. Like
that's neat.
And because what happens is you see the flowers here in the flower pod. What happens with that is when that, even if the flower blooms or not, on the back part of it, there's a little round pod. And depending, some of them are just teeny tiny, and I've had one that's like this huge. That's where the seeds are at.
Okay.
So if you let Mother Nature take its place, they're all over the place. And really, that is the easiest way to get a hollyhock started. Once you get these a couple plants started, just let Mother Nature take over. And then like at the end of the season when the stalks are drying out, just take some clippers, cut them, and let them fall. And that's cool. You'll have hollyhocks all over. I've got hollyhocks growing in the cracks of my sidewalk and all of that in the driveway. So they grow in the most weirdest places. But
that's neat though to think that you have plants that have been
and then also just I'm not protruding or trying to preach religion, but you know, in the Bibles sometimes they have pictures in your Bibles. Well, my husband has an old Bible that he had at his brother's, and his brother gave it back to him. But I was flipping through it one day, and there was a picture in Egypt, and it had a picture of pink hollyhocks, identical to the ones that grow in my yard. So with Priscilla being a slave, or her parents were slaves, kind of makes you wonder where the history there. Just kind of makes that wheel start turning a little bit.
Interesting.
So, very, very interesting.
And so reading that book, like it said that he met her in Georgia.
Yes.
And she's a little, what, like, it just blows my mind. What are the odds that he would just randomly see her and that they'd even remember what each other looks like?
Yeah.
Was she going to buy the property? Is that
what happened was Mr. Silkwood went out to Georgia on business, and he was visiting a plantation. And he was walking the plantation, and that's where he found Priscilla.
What did he do? Like, why was he visiting?
It was just business.
I mean, like, what kind?
I can't answer. That I don't know. But he was a man of wealth. And in Madisonville, Kentucky, where he's originally from, there's actually a street called Silkwood Avenue or Silkwood Lane, I can't remember, because his dad gave back so much to the community. And actually on Mr. Silkwood's headstone, it says, "Be mindful of the poor." Because, you know, he took in so many people, and being here he is like, the Silkwood Inn is also referred to sometimes as the halfway house, because it's the halfway point between Shawneetown and Kaskaskia. So they're at here where they stopped and stuff. It was a lot of where they would barter and stuff like that, and things. The Indians would come through, because back here on the back part of the property, back in that fence row back there, there's actually Indian burials. What happened with that in 1825, 1826, there was a battle between the Shawnee and the Kaskaskia Indians. And in West Frankfort, it used to be the Oasis Church. Now it's changed names again, and I can't remember what it is. But in front of that church, it's by where going into West Frankfort, where there's a new little Pickers antique store there. It's across the street from that. But in front of there's a marker, and that's where the Shawnee and the Kaskaskia met. Because what happened is the Kaskaskia Indians needed supplies, and they had to go to the River Shawnee to get them. And they knew that the Shawnee chief was down at that time, what would have been in Kentucky, in the northern part of Kentucky there. So what happened with that was the Kaskaskian chief, which was Chief Duquoin, he took his name from a French trapper, and that's how Duquoin got their name, from Chief Duquoin. So
I was going to say that sounds kind of familiar.
So the Shawnee chief, which I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he actually, you know, at first he's like, well, he's a chief. He's trying to take care of his people. He's trying to take care of his tribe. But they were bitter enemies. So the more the Shawnee chief thought about it, the angrier he got. So him and his braves come up, and they caught them there at that location where that marker's at, in front of that church. They had a battle there. They battled all the way to the Big Muddy River there. And it was in the springtime, so the river was up. So they had a rough time there. And then he caught them again out by where Mr. Silkwood's buried at the Reed Kirkpatrick Cemetery. There's also some Indian burials and mounds out there. And then the Shawnee chased them across the Little Muddy River back into their territory. So the Kaskaskians went back. They almost lost their tribe because of the battle, and then trying to get across the river because it was so high in the floodwaters. And then when they got to the Little Muddy again, they had to fight it again because it was also up. So
is it hard to find his gravesite, Mr. Silkwood?
No, I can tell you exactly where it's at.
Okay.
So, but his burial, his grave is on the east side of the Reed Kirkpatrick Cemetery. Well, another question we get to a lot of the times, especially when we have the kids and stuff come in, they always ask, you know, well, where's the kitchen at? Where's this? Where did everybody sleep if this was an inn? Back in the day, you have to remember, even though it was an inn, it was a place they would come to eat, but 9 times out of 10, they would sleep in their wagons.
Okay.
Or like Mr. Silkwood, the barn that you see out back here, which like I said in this picture here, the barn here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Is that barn back there.
Oh, really?
It doesn't look as bad.
No.
But, and also you see all the trees and stuff. one of the things when I started learning about Mr. Silkwood in the inn was one of the strangest things was herding turkeys. Back in the day, you would think, well, you know, today we see turkeys drive by in a semi. Well, back in the day, they would have had to herd their turkeys or their livestock or whatever. So the turkeys would roost around the inn. So a lot of those people that were herding the turkeys and taking their turkeys to market would get here early. So their turkeys would roost around the inn, and anybody else, they would lose their turkeys because they would come back here and roost in the forest. So, and a lot of them would store their livestock in the barn, and so they would sleep in the barn with their livestock. Especially, like I said, Indian territory here too. You don't think about it too much, but there's a lot of Indian heritage in the area and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And then the other question I get, especially from the kids and stuff that are homeschooled, and when we go upstairs, I'll show you my other little thing. But this right here, that's the bathroom.
Whoa.
No, it's a little white building right by the kitchen, and it's called an outhouse.
Oh, it looks like it's on the roof.
It looks like it's on the roof, but
That-
it's not.
yeah.
There's the ground right there.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where they would have to go to the restroom. So that's a kind of a long trek between the house and
It's kind of like when we went to Lincoln's home, huh?
Yeah.
Especially when it's cold outside, like it's been.
It's a different story.
yeah. So that you can kind of see in the, if you actually look at the landscape where the house is at now over here, where Mr. and Mrs. McKinney live now, you can kind of see how things were set up and everything was. But if they hadn't moved the Silkwood Inn, of course, John and Jean wanted to rebuild their home. So that's the reason they moved the inn. But if they hadn't moved the inn, it would be on the National Historic Register today.
Oh, wow.
Because the inn itself, because we have the original logs and stuff, it's one of the oldest homes in Southern Illinois.
But just because it was moved, they won't do it.
No, because it was moved. It's not in its original location. So we can't get any special grants or anything. So we're just kind of, we run off donations, thank goodness. And then the way the inn was set up when John and Jean moved it, and the way the historical did it. And then as they picked it off, it kind of looked like this.
Oh, interesting.
And then what they would do after that is they would twist it, and then they would roll it, and as you see, it becomes a strand of wool.
Oh, interesting.
See? And then after they strand it, they would dye it.
Wow.
And then, for example, these pieces here would either be coffee or tea stained.
Oh, okay.
They would let it soak in coffee and tea, and then this probably would have been strawberries or cherries or some kind of berries, and this probably is blueberries.
Wow.
So we can feel that, how rough that is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a lot rougher.
That's very itchy kind of stuff. And then they would wrap it around their things, that way when they crocheted and stuff, it would come directly off here as they crocheted.
It all tangled up.
Yep. And then also they would put it on the small machines like this, and they would make like table doilies and stuff like that. And down at the historical district at the old grade school, we have a giant loom. It's about both of those beds put together.
Wow.
However, it's not fully put together because we don't have room for it. But it's a giant loom that would have been used to make rugs and things like that.
Okay.
And it is huge. Huge, huge, huge. So, and then these pieces here, since it's part of the history within the area, because a lot of people that worked in Mulkeytown worked either at the Koala mine, the Christopher mine, and stuff like that. So they would wear these hats instead of the light hats that they have. They would put their oils and stuff in here, and they would light it, and then that would be their light. My husband, great grandfather, on his website, the first mine catastrophe, explosion, whatever, in the Koala mine, he actually unknowingly caused it, because Thanksgiving night they were going in on the midnight shift, and they went in and he was checking everything, and somebody had left the door open, so the mine was actually filling with methane. So his hat caused from the oils caused an explosion, and there were several men that lost their lives, and my husband's has a watch, a pocket watch that his grandpa had, and at the time of the explosion, the watch stopped. And so Greg, being the oldest grandson right now on the website, he has that watch.
Wow.
And he was just playing with it one night, and the watch started working, and it hadn't worked in over 100 years. So,
Wow.
but anyway, so this was the dangerous part of the mining with that. So
What game is that?
this is a chrono board, kind of like a carom board.
Oh yeah, I used to
And-
play Karen.
So that's what this is. And the pieces are right down there, but that's what this is. And they would use their hands. It's kind of like an early game of pool. Because some of them would just use their fingers and hit the little carom things, or they had little small sticks that they would use. So it's kind of like an early stage of pool. And then on the back it has
Oh wow.
checkers and different
cool.
games. So
And then you can kind of twist the yeah, you kind of twist the stick to make it.
yeah, that's a marionette puppet.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There you go.
Oh yeah. That's so cool. That's actually really fun. That's neat.
Okay. And then these right here, you know, we talked about Priscilla carving in her wools, and they had threads. They used to put their threads on little wooden spools. Then they carved these and made tops out of them. So what they do is they would make them spin on the ground. You can do it. Try and make it spin. Oi! We're both sore.
I got it.
We just got done with our tour of the Silkwood Inn, and now we're at the Reed Kirkpatrick Cemetery to see where Basil and to see where Priscilla's buried. We're sitting.
It was like, but
Is this an Indian one?
it's engraved anywhere.
Well, we found it last time.
Right there. Silkwood?
Here's a big one by a tree. Cedar tree, right?
Look at the tree growing directly out of
Our Silkwood. So we found Priscilla's gravesite, tombstone, and Kaden read this book earlier this week, or a couple weeks ago. Right here's the tombstone. So just bringing history to life for you, aren't we? Thank you, bud. And we think Barzilla Silkwood. This might be the guy that adopted her or bought her freedom.